You want to raise that credit score for a specific credit card, whatever the case is. You want to bump your credit fast. You want to know how to do it the right way, and this video is going to help you do it, okay? First of all, what you need to know, what is a good credit score? Anywhere from a 780 to an 850 is where you want to be, okay? Most people aren't there, but that's where you want to be. You also need to understand that there's many different scoring models, okay? The most accurate scoring model is obviously the FICO, but there's many different versions of FICO that you guys need to know about. And then there's also this thing called credit bureaus, right? There's like the TransUnion, Equifax, Experian. I say that because everybody's in their own journey of credit. Now, if you're starting off with credit, check out the playlist. I have financial literacy, credit repair, how to build credit, things like that. If you're already experienced with credit and you want to know how to maximize credit to build wealth, then I have business credit, things like that, where you can start building assets, leveraging your personal credit to build wealth, which is what most wealthy people do. So you can check that out. A lot of people don't realize that over 150 million people are under a 625 in this country. There's a lot of people struggling with credit, especially during a pandemic. It's really hard to get high limit funding right now. It's really hard to qualify. There's a lot of lines being slashed, personal lines getting taken away. Thanks, Wells Fargo. There's a lot going on in the credit world, okay? So it's what you don't know that can hurt you. You need to be strategic. You need to know what you want. You need to know your goals and then go after it, okay? So number one is you want to add positives to your credit report. If you've had a bankruptcy, if you've had bad credit, you're repairing your credit, you got a credit repair company helping you take off the negatives, the number one thing you need to start doing is adding positives. How do you do that? Well, you can add primary trade lines. That means like going to get a store card from Synchrony or Comenity. That's one way people do it. You also put a secured credit card, rent reporters, primary trade lines, anything that is going to boost your score, EXPERIAN boost. But the bottom line is you want to show things reporting to your credit report in a positive light. The number one way people do it when they're building credit or repairing credit is through secured credit cards, where you put money down and then the bank creates a trade line for you that reports to all three bureaus, and you get that money back eventually. And a lot of times these secured credit cards can graduate. So you put $1,000 down, you got a $1,000 limit that reports every single month. 6 to 12 months, for example, of on-time payments. The bank will then say, great, you've been responsible. Let's give you your $1,000 back, and let's give you an unsecured credit card and keep that history on that account so that way you don't lose that. That's the number one way to do it if you can do it. And then obviously, then you start building out unsecured lines of credit, primary trade lines, things like that. You don't want to be that person that has all of your trade lines be authorized user accounts, okay? Because it shows that you can't manage it as a primary, okay? So that's number one. Number two, watch your utilization, okay? The two biggest factors in your credit score is payment history and utilization. Utilization, what is that? It's how much you're utilizing of the card. If your card has a $10,000 limit, and you max it out at $10,000, you're using 100% of that credit line. What do you think is going to happen? You're going to go down like 2 to 250 points automatically. Now, you could say, well, what happens if I pay it back the next month? Then your score is going to go up 200 and 250 points. The nice thing that you need to know is it's not permanent. So what you pay, like if you have 1 month where you max out a card, sure, your score is going to tank for 1 month, but if you pay it back the next month, then it's going to just shoot right back up. So it's not a permanent damage, but you don't want to get in the habit of doing that because credit companies can actually slash your credit lines and raise red flags that you could be a credit risk. A ton of things could happen that way. So you want to make sure that your sweet spot is anywhere between 3 to 7%. So if you have a $10,000 limit, your sweet spot would be anywhere from $300 to $700. It's not a lot, I know. But that's what you want to report on your statement date. There's a payment date, there's a statement date. Make sure you check out my video for that. I did videos on all of this. There's a lot of financial literacy. I can't cover it all in one video. Bottom line is you want your utilization to be 7% or under. Banks will tell you 30% or under, but it's really the 3 to 7% is your sweet spot. So if you can get that utilization there, that's where you want to be. Now, you could say, well, how do I get that? What's a strategy to get that? Number one, getting credit limit increases all the time. So every 3 to 6 months, I call up and ask for a credit limit increase, saying I'm going to use the card more. So then if you can get it from 10,000 to 20,000, guess what? You can use the card more, right? And not have to worry about it. So then 10% of 20,000 would be 2,000. So you want to stay under $2,000 on the card, right? For most people, that's going to be it's going to be helpful, okay? So you want to make sure that you're not maxing out your cards, and you want to pay down your cards. What I would recommend too is if you have a bunch of cards, pay off your smallest ones first, and then you have less cards that are having balances on it. That helps you out to get credit limit increases as well. So if you have a card like US Bank with 2,000 and you can knock out that 2,000, knock it out all the way, and then ask for a credit limit increase on that. Start using that card more if you want down the road, things like that, okay? That's number two. So number one, adding positives to your credit report. Number two, getting your utilization to 7% or under, and raising credit limit increases to help that happen quicker, okay? Number three, putting high credit limit trade lines on your report. This is how you'll do that is with AUs, okay? You don't want your entire credit report to be all AUs. You want there to be all of them to be pretty much primaries. But if you need to have a high limit on there, you can get AU accounts, or you can get authorized users, become an authorized user on different accounts by getting on your friends and family credit cards that make sure that they're paying them on time, making sure all that's perfect. There's AUs that you can buy out there with credit repair companies, but you got to make sure that everything's being paid on time, or you're going to be screwed and it's going to come back and hurt you in the foot. Okay, so number three is a very dangerous way to do it. I wouldn't recommend it all the time for people. Just make sure if you get into authorized user trade lines that you know how long that credit has been reporting. Has it been reporting every single month as a payment on time? You need to know everything you can about that trade line and who has that trade line, because if they miss a payment, it's on you too, because you're an authorized user, okay? That's not the play you want to be in if you don't know what you're dealing with. And then number four, but it is powerful if you know what you're dealing with. So if you have a wife or a husband or a brother and they have a $50,000 credit card that they've had for 10 years and every time it's been on time, so you want to jump on that bad boy, especially if it reports history as well. Some do, some don't. But going forward, if you're an authorized user on that account, that $50,000 limit will be on your credit report, which will skyrocket your score. Skyrocket it, especially if the utilization is low. There's a lot of factors in there, but I'll do videos on how to get an authorized user account, things like that. But one, positive trade lines. Number two, utilization. Number three, huge credit limit, authorized user trade lines. And number four, the other thing that authorized user trade lines help with is age of credit. There's a section of how long have you had credit? What's your average age of credit? You want to have it over 7 years if you can. Over 10 years is even better. 1 to 2 years is not great. I tell people all the time, would you rather have high limits or long history? And the answer is long history. It just shows that you're not such a credit risk to the bank. You can always raise the limits, but you can't always raise the age. And that is the one factor that most people don't have control of unless they're doing authorized user accounts. So 3 and 4 are risky, okay? You need to be careful if you're going to get in that world. Authorized user accounts. If you guys have done authorized user accounts, what are tactics or strategies you recommend? Put in the comment section your thoughts, your questions, anything that you learned from this video, anything that you would contribute to how to raise a credit score quickly.